4 tons of high explosive. That is the weight carried by each of these miniature vessels, each barely larger than a whale. Their target? The most formidable battleship in the world, the German warship Tirpitz, hidden deep within a Norwegian fjord. To reach her, 4 men in an X-craft submarine must navigate 1,000 miles of hostile ocean, slip through minefields, evade a vigilant enemy, and penetrate layers of anti-torpedo nets. How could such a small force hope to strike such a colossal blow against an enemy so heavily defended? The year is 1943. The brutal conflict of the Second World War rages across the globe. In the chilling waters of the Arctic, a silent, menacing shadow looms over Allied shipping, the German battleship Tirpitz. This colossal vessel, the sister ship to the infamous Bismarck, is the heaviest battleship ever constructed by a European navy, displacing over 50,000 tons when fully loaded and bristling with 8 38-centimeter guns. She lies nestled deep within Kafjord, a remote and heavily fortified inlet of Norway's Altafjord, far north of the Arctic Circle. Her mere existence, even while largely inactive, forces the British Royal Navy to dedicate a significant portion of its capital ships to guarding the vital Arctic convoys ferrying crucial supplies to the Soviet Union. Prime Minister Winston Churchill himself considers her destruction paramount. Into this perilous landscape steps Lieutenant Basil Charles Godfrey Place, a British officer of the Royal Navy. Born on July 19, 1921, in Little Malvern, Worcestershire, England, Basil Place joined the Royal Navy as a cadet at Dartmouth in 1934, at the tender age of 14. By the outbreak of war in 1939, he serves as a midshipman in the cruiser HMS Newcastle before volunteering for the demanding and dangerous submarine service in 1940. His early career sees him serving as a liaison officer aboard the Polish submarine Sokol, for which he is awarded the Polish Cross of Valor. Later, as first lieutenant of HMS Unbeaten, he earns the Distinguished Service Cross for his role in sinking the Italian submarine Guglielmotti off Sicily in March 1942. Basil Place is remarkable for being the only regular Royal Navy officer among the initial volunteers for the highly experimental X-craft Midget submarines. His calm demeanor, exceptional courage, and prior experience in both conventional submarines and the experimental X-4 craft make him a natural choice to command X-7, one of the daring midget submarines tasked with this seemingly impossible mission. The challenge facing Basil Place and his fellow X-craft crews is monumental. The Tirpitz is not merely anchored. She is ensconced within a natural fortress, further enhanced by German engineering. Kafjord is a labyrinth of natural defenses, with steep rock walls providing cover against air attack. German ingenuity adds layers of artificial protection. The fjord approach is vigilantly patrolled by enemy vessels and guarded by listening posts. A declared minefield stretches across the entry points, designed to deter any conventional submarine approach. Beyond the minefield, multiple lines of heavy anti-submarine and anti-torpedo nets, some double-layered, encircle the battleship like an impenetrable skin. Shore-based artillery batteries and anti-aircraft guns pepper the surrounding mountains, ready to unleash a torrent of fire on any detected threat. The Germans are confident. They believe the "lonely queen of the north" is untouchable. The X-craft themselves, though revolutionary, present their own set of formidable obstacles. These midget submarines are approximately 15.7 meters, 51 feet, long and 1.7 meters, 5.5 feet, in diameter, displacing a mere 30 tons submerged. Each is crewed by just 4 men, crammed into a stifling, claustrophobic interior that offers little comfort or privacy. The journey to Norway is itself an endurance test. A towing operation of over 1,000 miles across the treacherous North Sea, behind larger conventional submarines. This extended transit, lasting days, pushes the human limits of the transit crews, who then hand over to the operational crews for the final, most dangerous leg. Navigation in the dark, icy waters of the fjord, with unreliable periscopes and limited visibility, demands extraordinary skill and nerve. Mechanical failures, common in experimental craft, could spell disaster far from any hope of rescue. The stakes are impossibly high. Failure means not only the loss of the mission but almost certain death or capture for the brave men inside. No one believed it was possible. They were about to be proven catastrophically wrong. The audacious plan, codenamed Operation Source, begins its execution on September 11, 1943. 6 X-craft, designated X5 through X10, depart fro. Loch Cairnbon in northern Scotland, each towed by a conventional submarine. The journey across the North Sea is long and arduous. For days, the small craft are buffeted by the waves, their crews enduring cramped conditions and the constant threat of the tow cable snapping. Each X-craft carries a passage crew for the long transit, who will later be relieved by an operational crew for the attack phase, maximizing the fighting fitness of the men who will face the enemy. Disaster strikes early. X9, towed by HMS Syrtis, is lost at sea with all hands when its towing cable parts in heavy weather. Then, X8, destined for the heavy cruiser Lutzow, develops critical mechanical issues, including a leak in its explosive side charges. The commander makes the agonizing decision to scuttle his craft to prevent a catastrophic premature detonation, and the Lutzow mission is aborted. X-10, intended for the battlecruiser Scharnhorst, also suffers mechanical failures and is forced to withdraw. Unknown to the crew of X-10, the Scharnhorst has already departed its anchorage, rendering their mission obsolete. By September 20, only 4 X-craft remain: X5, X6, X7, and X10. X10, having suffered further defects, is eventually also scuttled. The remaining 3, X5, X6, and Basil Place's X7, are now solely focused on the Tirpitz. As dusk falls on September 20, the 3 X-craft slip their tow lines from their parent submarines, approximately 80 to 100 miles off the Norwegian coast, and begin their independent journey towards Kafjord. Each Midget submarine is a self-contained weapon, propelled by a diesel engine on the surface and an electric motor when submerged. They must navigate the treacherous waters of Stern Sound, then proceed approximately 50 miles up the Altafjord, a path riddled with German patrols and observation posts. On the evening of September 21, the 3 X-craft lie up near Bratholm Island, a pre-designated hiding spot, to recharge their batteries and prepare for the final approach. Inside X7, Basil Place reviews the charts, the intelligence reports, and the intricate details of the Tirpitz's defenses. He knows the risks are immense. The cramped interior, barely 5.5 feet in diameter, is a world of dials, gauges, and levers, leaving little room for the 4-man crew. The air is stale, thick with the smell of diesel and sweat. The cold is pervasive, a constant companion in these Arctic waters. In the early hours of September 22, the final phase of Operation Source begins. X6, commanded by Lieutenant Donald Cameron, leads the way, followed by X7 under Basil Place, and then X5, commanded by Lieutenant H. Henty Creer. Their mission is to penetrate the outer anti-submarine net, then the inner anti-torpedo net, and finally position their 2-ton side charges directly beneath the Tirpitz's hull. Each charge contains approximately 4,000 pounds of Amitex high explosive, a potent mixture designed for maximum destructive power. X6 makes its approach, its crew navigating with extreme caution. They successfully cut through the outer net, a perilous task that requires a diver to exit the submarine's airlock. The silence is broken only by the hum of the electric motors and the rhythmic breathing of the crew. They slip past listening posts, their tiny profiles undetectable in the murky depths. But then, a critical failure. X6's periscope becomes unserviceable. Lieutenant Cameron is effectively blind, forced to navigate by sound and instinct. Despite this crippling setback, he presses on, a testament to the unyielding determination of these men. X6 then becomes entangled in a net. The crew struggles to free it, losing precious minutes. When they finally break free, they accidentally surface close to the Tirpitz. It is September 22, 1943, approximately 7 o'clock. On board the Tirpitz, Captain Hans Meyer of the Kriegsmarine, commanding the colossal battleship, oversees routine morning duties. The ship is a floating fortress, with a full complement of over 2,600 crew members. The Kafjord anchorage is considered impregnable, protected by layers of nets, shore batteries, and vigilant patrols. Suddenly, a lookout spots a small, dark shape in the water near the ship. Captain Meyer, initially, dismisses it as a harmless porpoise, a common sight in the Norwegian fjords. He orders a closer inspection. As the shape draws nearer, the alarm is raised: U-boot. The impossible has happened. A British Midget submarine, X6, has breached their inner defenses. Confusion spreads rapidly among the crew. Orders are shouted across the deck. Guns begin to traverse, searching for the tiny, elusive target. The German officers cannot comprehend how such a small vessel could have penetrated their formidable security. They believe this must be an isolated act of sabotage, perhaps by Norwegian partisans, rather than a coordinated, large-scale attack by the Royal Navy. The true nature of the threat, and the scale of the impending disaster, remains tragically underestimated. As X6 is detected and comes under heavy fire, Lieutenant Cameron, realizing escape is impossible, decides to scuttle his craft. He ensures his crew's safety, and they are quickly captured by German sailors swarming the Tirpitz's deck. Now, it is Basil Place's turn. Lieutenant Place, commanding X7, has been following X6. He observes the commotion, the gunfire, and the capture of Cameron's crew. He knows his presence is likely compromised, that the enemy is now on high alert. Yet, he continues his approach, his resolve unshaken. X7 penetrates the outer anti-submarine net, then skillfully cuts through the inner anti-torpedo net. The sheer audacity of the act is breathtaking. He is now inside the Tirpitz's immediate defensive perimeter. Navigating through the final, innermost layer of nets proves incredibly difficult. X7 becomes entangled, its small hull snagged in the heavy steel mesh. Basil Place, with remarkable composure, maneuvers the submarine, struggling to break free. The minutes tick by, each second a lifetime under the shadow of the massive battleship. Finally, with a jolt, X7 rips free. In an extraordinary stroke of luck, or perhaps sheer skill, the Midget submarine strikes the Tirpitz's port side, sliding directly beneath her keel. At approximately 7:40, with X7 positioned directly under the Tirpitz, Basil Place releases the first 2-ton side charge. The explosive device settles silently on the seabed beneath the battleship's forward section, near the A and B turrets. He then drives X7 astern, moving approximately 45 to 60 meters, 150 to 200 feet, along the Tirpitz's hull, and releases the second 2-ton charge beneath the aft turrets. Both charges are set with a 1-hour delay fuse. X7 is once again ensnared in the nets, trapped directly beneath the colossal warship. Basil Place attempts to escape. Without a functioning compass, and in the chaotic aftermath of X6's capture, his precise location is unknown. He describes the predicament with masterful understatement. Without a compass I had no exact idea where we were. X6's charges were due to explode in an hour. It was extremely annoying to run into another net. If you had been in Basil Place's position, knowing that the enemy was fully alert and your craft was compromised, would you have continued the attack, or attempted to withdraw? Tell me in the comments. Meanwhile, X5, under Lieutenant Henty Krier, is also attempting its approach. It is sighted by German lookouts and comes under a hail of heavy fire from the Tirpitz's 105 mm anti-aircraft guns and shore batteries. X5 is raked with gunfire and depth charges, and is believed to have been sunk with all hands, approximately 1,600 meters, 1 mile, from its target. There is historical debate, however, with some believing X5 may have successfully placed its charges before being lost. Below the surface, Basil Place continues his desperate struggle to free X7. The explosions from X6's charges are imminent. He knows the danger of being so close to a massive detonation. The pressure in the small craft is immense, both from the depths and the psychological toll of the mission. The air grows heavy, condensation drips from the bulkheads, and the silence is punctuated only by the creaking of the hull. He tries every maneuver, every trick known to a submariner, to dislodge his vessel from the steel netting. The claustrophobia, the cold, and the exhaustion are relentless, but Basil Place's focus remains absolute. He must escape, or at least attempt to save his crew. At approximately 8:12, a series of colossal explosions rock Caffjord. The charges placed by Lieutenant Cameron's X-6 and Basil Place's X-7 detonate almost simultaneously. The sheer force of the blasts lifts the 50,000-ton Tirpitz several feet out of the water. A German sailor, who had previously served on the Scharnhorst, later recalls the moment, stating, "We've had torpedo hits, we've had bomb hits. But this was different." The explosions send shockwaves through the water, violently shaking the entire fjord. The damage to Tirpitz is immediate and severe. The explosions buckle her hull, rupture oil tanks, and cause extensive flooding in several compartments. Critical systems are severely impaired, including her main engines, boilers, and the aircraft catapult. She develops a 2-degree list to port. The battleship is not sunk, but she is crippled, rendered immobile and out of action. The force of the underwater detonations miraculously wrenches X-7 free from the nets. Basil Place takes his damaged craft to the seabed to assess the situation. He quickly realizes that while the pressure hull remains intact, many of X-7's mechanical controls and internal systems are beyond repair. The submarine is severely damaged, unable to maneuver effectively or make a clean escape. With only enough air remaining for one more surface attempt, Basil Place makes the grim decision: surrender. He brings X-7 to the surface, approximately 450 meters, 500 yards, from the Tirpitz, near a battle practice target. Waving a white sweater, he steps out of the submarine. Tragically, as water laps into the damaged craft, X-7 begins to sink. Two of Basil Place's crew, Lieutenant Whittam and engine room artificer Whitley, are unable to escape and perish. Basil Place and Sub-Lieutenant Aitken are rescued by the Germans and taken prisoner. Imagine being a German sailor on the deck of the Tirpitz, witnessing the explosions and then seeing these tiny submarines surface, their crews surrendering. What emotions do you think would be running through the minds of the German crew at that moment? Tell me in the comments. The 6 captured survivors from X-6 and X-7, including Basil Place and Donald Cameron, are initially suspected by the Germans of being Norwegian saboteurs. They are subjected to intense interrogation aboard the Tirpitz. Despite their desperate situation, they cannot reveal the full extent of the damage they have inflicted, nor the critical information that 8 tons of high explosives have just detonated beneath the battleship. They are then transferred to Marlag Malag Nord, a German prison camp for naval officers, where they will spend the remainder of the war. When faced with capture and interrogation, what does it tell you about a man that he would withhold critical information from the enemy, even under extreme duress? Tell me in the comments. The Caffjord shudders. A deafening roar tears through the cold Norwegian air, followed by a violent heave that lifts the mighty Tirpitz, the pride of the German fleet, clear of the water. On board, German sailors are thrown from their feet as the 50,000-ton behemoth groans under the immense force of the twin explosions. The charges, each containing 2 tons of high explosive, have detonated precisely as planned, directly beneath the battleship's hull. Below the surface, the sea erupts. A massive bubble of superheated gas and water blasts upwards, tearing through the Tirpitz's armored belly. Steel plates, designed to withstand the heaviest shells, crumple and rip open like paper. Water, thousands of tons of it, rushes into the newly formed breaches, flooding compartments with terrifying speed. The ship's internal structure, a complex web of bulkheads and decks, is violently distorted. On the surface, a plume of spray and debris shoots high into the sky. The Tirpitz lists sharply to port, a visible wound on her otherwise pristine profile. Alarms scream across the ship, a cacophony of urgent warnings. Damage control parties spring into action, their faces grim, knowing the scale of the disaster they face. The ship's engineers report catastrophic failures. Her main engines are severely damaged, her boilers ruptured, and her massive propeller shafts bent, effectively immobilizing the colossal warship. The aircraft catapult, a vital component for launching her reconnaissance planes, is also rendered inoperable. Amidst the chaos, the crew of the damaged X-7, including Lieutenant Basil Place, has just surfaced. They are barely 450 meters from the crippled battleship, now a scene of frantic activity. German guns, having previously targeted X-6, swing towards the new, tiny target. Machine gun fire erupts, raking the water around the Midget submarine. Basil Place, knowing X-7 is too damaged to escape, makes the agonizing decision to scuttle his craft. He ensures his surviving crew members exit, but the rapid influx of water into the damaged X-7 claims the lives of Lieutenant Whittam and engine room artificer Whitley. Basil Place and Sub-Lieutenant Aitken are pulled from the icy water by German sailors, their mission accomplished, but their freedom lost. They watch, helpless, as the Tirpitz, though still afloat, begins to settle, a testament to their audacious and costly success. The immediate aftermath of Operation Source on September 22, 1943, sees the German battleship Tirpitz severely damaged. She is not sunk, but the extensive structural damage, ruptured oil tanks, and impairment to her engines, boilers, and propeller shafts render her immobile and effectively out of action for many months. The Germans work desperately to repair her in Kafjord, a process that takes until April 1944. During this period, the immense threat she posed to Allied convoys in the Arctic is significantly reduced. This allows the Royal Navy to redeploy valuable capital ships to other theaters of war where they are desperately needed. The strategic impact of Operation Source is profound, demonstrating that even the most heavily defended warships are vulnerable to innovative tactics and unparalleled courage. For their extraordinary gallantry, endurance, and utter contempt for danger, Lieutenant Basil Charles Godfrey Place and Lieutenant Donald Cameron are awarded the Victoria Cross, the highest award for valor in the British and Commonwealth forces. Sub-Lieutenant Aitken, Basil Place's second-in-command on X-7, receives the Distinguished Service Order, while Lieutenant Whittam and engine room artificer Whitley, who perished in X-7, are posthumously mentioned in dispatches. The surviving officers, including Basil Place and Donald Cameron, spend the remainder of the war as prisoners in Marlag Malag Nord. After the war, Basil Place's naval career takes an unexpected turn. Despite his heroic actions in the submarine service, he does not return to Midget submarines. In 1950, he transfers to the Fleet Air Arm, training as a pilot and earning his wings in 1952. He goes on to fly Sea Fury fighter bombers during the Korean War, serving as a squadron commander from the aircraft carrier HMS Glory. Basil Place continues to serve with distinction, eventually achieving the rank of Rear Admiral before retiring from the Royal Navy in 1970. His life after the Tirpitz attack is a testament to his versatility and continued dedication to service. The Tirpitz, despite the damage inflicted by the X-craft, is eventually repaired. However, her operational life is severely curtailed. She is repeatedly attacked by Allied air forces, and finally, on November 12, 1944, she is sunk by RAF Lancaster bombers using 5,400 kg, 12,000 pound, tallboy bombs during Operation Catechism, capsizing in Tromsø Fjord with the loss of between 900 and 1,200 men. The Midget submarine attack in September 1943 was the first successful blow against the mighty Tirpitz, a critical turning point in her ultimate demise. An unexpected fact: Basil Place later became chairman of the Victoria Cross and George Cross Association, bringing together individuals who had received Britain's highest awards for gallantry. If this story moved you, if you think these men deserve to be remembered, leave one word in the comments: audacity. Subscribe for a new forgotten story every week.